My neighbor told me not to look outside at night. Alright, so this is easily the creepiest thing anybody has ever said to me in real life. And the worst part? At the time I genuinely thought they were joking. But after what happened that night, I don't think I'll ever forget the way they said it. Because sometimes people can say something so casually that your brain doesn't realize how terrifying it actually is until later. So this happened a little over a year ago when I moved into a quiet neighborhood outside the city. And when I say quiet, I mean unnaturally quiet. No traffic, no people outside, no music, nothing. The kind of place where everything feels dead after dark. Now honestly, at first I loved it, because after living in loud apartments for years, finally having somewhere peaceful felt amazing. Small house, cheap rent, calm neighborhood. Perfect. At least that's what I thought. Now the weird thing about the neighborhood was the people. Not rude, just distant. Nobody really talked to each other. Every time I waved at somebody, they'd smile awkwardly and immediately go back inside. Even during the day, the street felt strangely empty. But at night, it's got worse. By like 10 p.m., the entire neighborhood became completely silent. Not normal suburban quiet. I mean, dead silent. No dogs barking, no cars, no TVs through windows. Nothing. And honestly, the silence started making me uncomfortable after a while. Now, about a week after moving in, I finally spoke properly to one of my neighbors. Older guy, probably in his 60s, lived directly across the street. And honestly, he seemed nice enough at first. We talked for maybe 5 minutes about the area. The weather, normal neighbor stuff. But right before he went back inside, suddenly stopped and looked at me really seriously. Then he said, "Whatever you do, don't look outside your windows after midnight." Now obviously I laughed, because what kind of sentence is that? It sounded like the start of a horror movie. So I asked if he was joking, and instead of answering, he just stared at me for a second. Then said, "I'm serious," and walked back into his house. Now instantly I'm uncomfortable, because there's something terrifying about people refusing to explain themselves. If he'd laughed afterward, fine, but he didn't. And honestly, the way he said it stayed in my head the entire night. Now logically, I kept telling myself it was probably some weird neighborhood joke. Maybe teenagers messing around. Maybe somebody sleepwalking. Who knows? But once midnight came around, I started noticing something strange. Every house on the street had their curtains closed. Completely closed. Not one window open anywhere. Now listen. That might not sound creepy, but once you notice it, you really notice it. Every single house looked sealed shut, like the entire neighborhood was hiding from something outside. And suddenly I remembered what my neighbor said. Don't look outside after midnight. Now at this point, curiosity completely takes over. Because if somebody tells you not to do something for no reason, your brain immediately wants to know why. So around 12:30 a.m., I go upstairs to my bedroom and slowly walk toward the window. Now, honestly, part of me expected some dumb prank, maybe people in costumes, teenagers trying to scare new residents, something stupid like that. So I pull the curtain back slightly and look outside. And at first, everything seems normal. Empty street lights, nothing moving, completely quiet. And honestly, I almost laughed at myself for getting nervous, because clearly the neighbor was messing with me. But then, I noticed someone standing at the end of the road. Now listen carefully. I've never felt fear like this before, because the person wasn't moving at all. Just standing completely still under a streetlight, facing directly toward my house. Now instantly I stepped back from the window, because something about it felt wrong immediately. Not dangerous exactly, just deeply uncomfortable. Like seeing something you weren't supposed to notice. So now I'm standing there trying to convince myself it's probably just some random person outside. But after about 30 seconds, curiosity wins again. So I look back out the window, and the person is closer. Not walking, not moving, just closer than before. Now my stomach drops instantly, because there's nitrogen monoxide way somebody could move that fast without me seeing it. And suddenly I realize something worse. I can't actually make out their face. Even under the streetlight, it's just dark, like their face is blurred somehow. Now every survival instinct in my body is screaming at me to close the curtain. But before I can, the person tilts their head slightly, like they know I'm looking at them. I slam the curtain shut immediately, and honestly at this point I'm fully panicking, because none of this feels normal anymore. So now I'm trying to calm myself down. Maybe it's somebody messing around. Maybe I imagined the movement. Maybe. Then I hear knocking. 3 slow knocks from downstairs. Now instantly every hair on my body stands up. Because somebody knocking at your door at 1 a.m. is already creepy. But after what I just saw outside? Absolutely not. So now I'm frozen at the top of the stairs listening. And then the knocking happens again. 3 knocks. Slow. Heavy. Patient. Now eventually I force myself to look through the peephole. And I immediately regret it. Because standing outside my front door is the same person from the street. Completely still. Head tilted slightly downward. Now I still can't see their face properly. It's like the porch light isn't reaching them correctly. And honestly, the silence was the worst part. They weren't speaking, not moving, just standing there. Then slowly, they raised one hand and pointed upward, toward my upstairs bedroom window. I genuinely felt sick at that point, because somehow they knew I looked outside. And before I can even react, they whisper something. Really quietly, but just loud enough for me to hear through the door. "You looked." That's it. 2 words. And somehow it was the creepiest thing I've ever heard. Because the voice sounded wrong. Too deep. Too calm. Almost like multiple voices speaking at once. Now I immediately back away from the door. And honestly, I'm seconds away from calling police. But then suddenly, I hear another sound outside. Doors opening. All up and down the street. And when I look through the peephole again, the person is gone. Completely gone. Now instead I see my neighbors outside. Every single one of them standing silently in their front yards, facing the road. And nobody is talking, nobody moving, just staring down the street together. Now I don't know, but somehow that was even worse, because whatever they were looking at, they clearly expected it to come back. Now eventually the old neighbor across the street notices me at the door, and immediately starts shaking his head, like he's warning me not to come outside. Then suddenly all the streetlights go out at once. The entire street goes dark, and instantly I hear running. Fast footsteps somewhere outside. Not one person. Multiple. Now honestly, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. But eventually, I looked outside again, and I wish I hadn't. Because standing directly outside my second floor window was the same figure, smiling. Impossible smile. Way too wide. And somehow, it was standing high enough to look directly inside. I don't even remember backing away. I just remember falling backward onto the floor while the thing kept staring through the glass. And then suddenly, the neighbor's voice screamed from outside. "Don't let IT see you!" Now instantly I crawl away from the window. And the second I do, the scratching stops. Completely. Then silence. No footsteps. Nothing. And somehow that silence felt even worse than the noise. I stayed hidden in my bathroom until sunrise. Didn't sleep. Didn't move. Nothing. And eventually when morning came, everything looked normal again. Birds outside. Cars driving past. Completely ordinary. Like nothing happened. Now later that day I confronted my neighbor, and I asked him what the thing outside my house was. And honestly, his answer still scares me. Because he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We don't know." Then he added, "But every few months, it comes back looking for someone who looks outside." I moved out 3 days later. Didn't care about losing money. Didn't care how crazy the story sounded. Absolutely not staying there another night. But the creepiest part? A month after moving, I woke up around midnight to a notification on my phone. Motion detected outside your house. So now I didn't even remember setting up security cameras. But when I opened the app, there was a single image. Someone standing at the end of my driveway, head tilted, facing the house. And yeah, if you want more creepy stories like this, make sure to like and subscribe, because somehow weird stuff keeps happening to me. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.